I named this Drive for Show, Bonds for Dough. Right? I
Here he is
named it
again.
intentionally.
Here he is again. That's astonishing. It's absolutely world class.
You can't you
Here he
can't
is
make fun
again.
of yourself of others if you can't make fun of yourself first. So but here is in fact where the Drive for Show, putt for dough. Nope. Drive for show, bonds for dough. Always bonds for dough. It's what I told the people that I was playing with. I told them that phrase. Anyway, let's go to financial markets here. In here under Jay's corner, right? While I had pointed out this specific edition, the reality is a lot of the other entries here are really talking not about specific financial advice, as you could see underneath my image, but for your understanding about the way that financial markets work. Things that don't get widely told to you because they're fixated on Bed Bath & Beyond and the latest controversy, which we will get to in a few moments. But you can see here, me making fun of myself again, just because it's fun. Yep. So it's been a long year. It's been a long year. I think that everyone knows this for a variety of reasons. You thought 2020 was bad. We get this year. Very easy to understand. Market recovers what happened. And basically what I've been saying here, as you can see here, is that we've got half back. I explained it to you a month ago, right? Months ago or a few weeks ago here. UMA and ketchup, short covering. This terminology is real. We've had the backdrop. Very, very, very importantly, we have had the correct backdrop. And you can see it here. We've traveled from 3.5% on the 10-year note all the way down to 2.59. It is a huge amount. It is a huge move. You can see it there. This is a fairly longish timeline. If we back it up, you can see, oh, by the way, where did it come to March of 2022? To paid subscribers of the Substack, which are portered and get access to GH2 Unfiltered, they were told about this type of situation and the world kind of not looking exactly right as a result, and Hurricane Henri, Bitcoin, GameStop, AMC. That seems like years ago. It was 18 months ago, which, oh yeah, by the way, happened to coincide with this pivot area here. And now all of a sudden you can see what ended up happening. The volatility of of interest rates, which was always the most important, stopped being stable and one way lower. Right? And so the persons on this channel, followers of Jay's Corner, tired of this singular formula on valuation of every risky asset, sees it's not the numerator, the denominator. So if you go to the short, you'll see a professor from Wharton actually talking about this fact during the Snapchat. There's a video and an entry on the Snapchat where I'm talking about that. And he repeats it on CNBC. He's not a subscriber to Jay's Corner, by the way. So anyway, he's Professor Wharton, so I don't think he needs to see Jay's Corner. Anyway, so you've seen the 10-year note. And you have also seen, now, until this past days, you've seen this relative stability here. Relative. We're going to get to that here. we've seen the euro drop, but then stop and sit here in this range that you see on the screen. And because of that, because from that point, you can now understand the entries that I've had here in Jay's Corner, for example. Don't stop playing with your food. That because of the stable backdrop, because of the fact that it looks like the world isn't going to end, because of the seasonality of where we are right now, which is the middle of the summer, the senior people, the senior decision makers, they were doing what I was doing. Right? I chose that time not by coincidence. Right? I just looked on the calendar and said, okay, here's looks like the spot. And once we saw the stability in the bigger markets, yes, that became the opportunity, candidly. Right, where we've had this relative stability. No. And that leads us to where we are now. And today's video, right, it was named, and let's just go to it. Today's entry into Jay's Corner is here. The Fed meets in Wyoming. The Fed meets in Wyoming. Jay stupidly did not turn on the sharing. Something I did not know. Anyway, you can see here that I've now explained these two. And now we're here back to here. This coming week, the Federal Reserve there's going to be a symposium, which is going to be in Jackson Hole. And, it's going to be important. Because during this period of these weeks, not half back, football season's almost here. Unfortunately for 11 games, anyway, with that different channel. I'm with person number 24 though. She now has a shot at 225 million. Hopefully she get a lot of it. Anyway, here we go. Stop playing with your food, right? Meaning that if you were making big dramatic changes here, you had to ask yourself, my point was, why would I do that as a strategy? Would I fundamentally have changed your strategy? No. But that is different than taking very good time here to take stock of your particular situation here. I found it no coincidence that this past 2 weeks, I've had more persons sign up for comprehensive financial planning than any other 2-week period over this past year. There's a reason I had this inquiry. Because they followed Jay's Corner, they go, oh, guess what? Inside of here, these lines, these balances, which started out this year at 100, down to 80, and now up to around 88. That since my job here under financial planning is to make, I don't care, right? Jay doesn't care what the composition, no. I'm going to look at each line. But my real objective is the highest possible as the sum of the lines. Right? What happened is what you thought was 80, at the worst, 80 at the end of June, is now 88, approximately. And that's not random, right? That's not a randomly generated number. Here it is here. Right? Year-to-date return of the biggest. 12 minus 12.44 minus 12.48. By the way, like I said, assess the likelihood that the two biggest, best known, are 0.04% away from each other. 0.04%. Okay. 4 pennies out of $1,000. 40 cents out of $1,000, right? Do I have the math right? Yeah, I've got some math jocks out there. They'll be able to tell me if I've done the top of my head. 40 cents on $1,000 is correct. 40 cents on $1,000 is the difference. That's how specific the professional market actually is. To that degree, I'm watching the stable. Anyway, my point here is that we've kind of morphed back to here. And now we're at 87, 88. Let's call it 87. Now you can see my point is that these things that people have ignored down here may be absolutely revisited and may have a very good reason. Right? And that's because people blew it off. They glossed over it. They listened to the noise. I shouldn't do this. That's a waste. The market's up, etc., etc. Yeah, that was all fine when it was at 100 and then going to 115 every year because the NASDAQ is straight up. This year has been a douse of cold water. How much tougher it can be. Well, why was it tougher? Well, people didn't understand the denominator, and on we go. Just scroll back to Jay's corner. You'll see the thread. Okay. Here's where we are today. If you take a look at the market mechanism, right? This isn't about Jay thinking, well, stocks are cheap and this or that. It has always been, do we properly understand the denominator? The answer is no. Right? That was the first 3 innings. It's a reason I've called this like a baseball game, because it tells you about stages. It's not telling you about calendar time, because it's going to be about benchmarks of occurrences, not whether it's July or August or September. That is not the reason I'm calling it a particular inning. This first down here has been the first 3 innings because why? The denominator was now, which has been blown off by the noise talkers, which is the numerator. You know, Netflix is great, Facebook is great, Snapchat is great, right? Bed Bath & Beyond is great. I should buy AMC. It's too cheap, etc., etc. The reality is that the big money is watching the denominator. That includes foreign exchange, because foreign exchange and the denominator are linked, because bond holdings are translated back to their domestic currency and that's affected by foreign exchange rates. Okay? What does this graph tell you? This graph tells you we are in a congestion zone, and you can see how far back this goes. Right? This is May of 2021. Back to what I was saying about, the beginning of Jay's Corner that I just mentioned 10 minutes ago. We are no better off, and you can see conflicts here. Disagreements on where the equity market should be. Where my vote is doesn't matter in the scheme of things at all. In fact, I don't even tell you it's too high, it's too low. There's a reason I call it non-financial advice. There's a reason I'm calling it. The market is there to evaluate what's the fair price of this at a rummage sale. What this graph is telling you, and it's important to see these little thin lines. You can see that there's disagreement, and oh yeah, by the way, look at these little thin lines here, going back almost exactly to the dotted line. So that should dispel most of your thoughts of hopefully it dispels the idea that I'm making it up. Reality is you're probably already convinced I'm not making it up. because otherwise you wouldn't have made it to this point of the video. The second one, oh, be sure, if you have made it to this point of the video, be sure to like and subscribe, obviously. The second one is this is very unresolved. You cannot say this is the 8th inning. We just cannot. How's that possible? Right? This goes back all the way back to the time of GameStop, AMC, Bitcoin's first run up to the 40,000s. Does this mean that any of those headlines in individual basis were wrong? No, it absolutely doesn't. Right? Let's just take a look at some of those, and we're going to swerve here. We're going to swerve here. Because what I thought to show you is, this grabbed all the headlines. So Bed Bath & Beyond. Let's start with Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay? A crazy run in a store that many people understand. And these are just different time frames. Different time frames that I'm looking at Bed Bath & Beyond. And here's a very good one. So this is the past 6 months. This is Bed Bath & Beyond equity here. There's an influencer investor, hedge fund manager, seats on a board. I'm not going to bore you with the tale. Largely because I don't follow the story. My point here is the following. If you're going to be able to select an individual line item on an individual basis and be right, you're always winning. You don't need a diversified portfolio if you're always correct. You don't. Right? And you can see it here. What did you do? You just took all 100. Right? You took all 100 from here. Right? And you plunked it down over here on the far left. You wrote it up to, what is this? This is 82% in days. You sell. And now all of a sudden, what? This 100 is no longer 100, it's 180. It also goes back to the fact that the flip side can occur, right? Which is now, let's say you're the buyer up here. You have no edge. If you aren't a person who has an edge and you got lucky, that's okay. There's the, tired saying, better lucky than good. Right? I find that tired. I'd rather use better lucky and good. Right? Better lucky than good. Luck runs out, by the way. And now you can see what has happened. This isn't... You bought at 180. Okay? It is now 75. You've gone from 180 to 75 if you sold then on Friday at the end. Okay, you're not down 26% down here. You're down from a much higher number. So if you bought Happy Talk and say, and without edge, and then sit there, okay, it's going to keep going up. I'm going to have retirement money. And this also is the same dynamic of what happened to meme stocks, AMC, GameStop. I'm not going to say don't speculate. Can't say that. In fact, if I'm 26, 27, 28, and I have a few shekels here, I'm probably taking a set of more volatile names than if I'm 62 or 56. It depends on the allocation into these speculative names. So there's your takeaway. Number one, you've got to have an edge. And number two, and the important takeaway is, if you got lucky, you have to understand what exercise you are actually partaking in. What you are doing. You have to understand the exercise. Because if your line item had gone from 100 to 180, you caught lightning in a bottle on the far left. You have to consider what you are doing here at 180. Let's say you are an insider. Let's say you knew something that no one else did. Okay, that's fine. That is different. Right? That is different. You're an engineer. You understand that that particular expertise in that particular company was so good and so dominant and can't be replicated, and you happen to be in early. You can stay there. I wouldn't necessarily have said that's a great idea. Maybe you sell some and keep some. That's probably the more prudent. But my point is that the point is the edge. If you have the edge, fine. If you don't have the edge that the other person's and the market doesn't have, I would strongly suggest that you look in the mirror and understand that. You can accept the fact that you've got lucky. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Right? A lot of persons in this audience have gotten lucky. Why? You didn't know you were 90% stocks at the time that you were completely misunderstanding stocks for show, bonds for dough. But the market happened to go up. And therefore, that what I'm saying here is that is not evidence of, see, I'm right. No. Just in the same way, Bed Bath & Beyond went from 100 to 180. Right? In percentage terms. 100 units turned into 180. And fast. You can see it. If you don't have an edge, understand what you are doing so that you can return back to here, and whether it's prudent here. We can see a similar thing here, and here it is. We're going to see speculative excess. There's nothing wrong with speculation per se. This is Bitcoin here. Right? In that same way, you were early, GameStop's going to run the world. Okay, you can understand that you've seen other videos here in Jay's Corner. I'm not disputing blockchain's place in the world or that it will have one. Not. On my understanding cryptocurrency, the reality is I would day. All we have here, headed into Jackson Hole, is no progress here on equity exposure whatsoever since February of 2021. 18 months of nothing. What keeps me up at night? Of course, this. The big UMA, the UMA move, accompanied by notably lower interest rates here in really short order. So this is what I was saying during that UMA video. Anytime I get to re-mention Pulp Fiction, I'm going to do it. Right? But my point here is that interest rates down, foreign exchange stable, allowing people to say, okay, the world's not going to end. And, oh yeah, by the way, Apple, 2% growth, et cetera, et cetera. We got the happy talk. We got the window to allow for happy talk as the denominator stopped being so volatile and started moving lower. But over this past week, which is the first week in 5 that the equity market did not increase, what do you have? You have a return to higher. And if you back up, you'll see how little progress here has been made. And if you keep backing up, you'll see that up here are notably higher numbers. And this isn't exactly right because of the line. Don't use the line. You're using this. Because you could see when the world started to freak out, right? When the world started to freak out, that this number was 3.5%. You start coming back up here. it does open the window to the denominator becoming much higher, which means the NPVs, the prices, the agreed upon congestion about what the price of the coffee mug at the auction would be, can become much more volatile. It's the reason, and the reason I slowed down my speech intentionally, it's the reason is that I said, don't stop playing with your food. Because during this past couple of weeks, we've had senior people out, but stealth quietly here. What have we seen? We have seen stealth higher interest rates. And here it is. During this 2 weeks, while equities have stayed stable-ish, we've had these activities going on. And oh yeah, by the way, we've also seen it here, which is we've seen the euro lower. 103.5 to 100.37. It's an extra 2% So before we think that, we're in the bottom of the 7th, bottom of the 8th, no. You cannot make this conclusion. That would not make any sense to say, oh, well, the coast is clear. Because in Wyoming, the headline I'm going to be looking for is about quantitative tightening. During this past period, 2 weeks of equities back higher. And while I've been trying to say, don't make too much of it, one of these reasons of don't play with your food, stop playing with your food, is because of the fact that we have not focused here back to what's going to happen to quantitative tightening. All the talk has been about, okay, maybe the Fed will not increase rates by 75% every meeting. The Fed told you that. I showed you that on the UMA video, which says, okay, we're not married to 75 basis points. We're going to take it meeting by meeting. The market heard what it wanted to hear, and it was boring, and then catch up, and then all this, as a result, up the markets went. Though completely understandable. Is this too far an extension? Maybe, right? I had pointed it out in the past that maybe the congestion zone was a little bit lower, that it was somewhere in here, down here, 4100s. That made total sense. But you can see if you took this and drew a rectangle, you would capture a lot of the congestion zones where these small wicks exist. A lot of them. There's a debate here. And this isn't a debate that's being shown up on CNBC talking about something that was 18 months ago. That gets no clicks or eyeballs. But instead now what you have here is this. And if you start rocketing higher because the Fed starts telling you that we're going to start liquidating our balance sheet faster, which they don't ask me, nobody's asking me, they could have done without telling the world, right? Could have, should have done. They probably weren't listening to me, right? Or they wouldn't, I didn't get a call. What were we doing down here? I would have hit the sell button en masse if I'm at the Federal Reserve, right? You had your chance at 2.6. This is saving national money here if you're the U.S., right? That's your debt service ratio. That's your debt service cost, by the way, which is now unspeakably high. So it's going to try to sell its balance sheet. We've had no talk about that. That's what you're going to want to hear out of Wyoming coming into this next week. That will drive this. That will drive this. And from there, then the headlines will be here. But again, the mechanics and the real basis, not surprisingly, not to followers of Jay's Corner as a result of the formula in the lower left. Equities will then follow in that order. As in any mathematic exercise, this is the math of money. Order matters. Order matters. And from there, that's your takeaway coming into the week. My hour is up. Hopefully you liked today's video. Be sure, like, subscribe. We live in YouTube's world. That's the way it works.